We're live? Dang. Well,
These are fun chairs. I
I
like
know
these.
they're so comfortable. I love velvet too. I'm like addicted to velvet.
Yeah.
It's just like feels good. Well, we're good. Okay, Small Axe Talks. We're back. We're on a little hiatus. Stephanie was in Colombia, but I am here with Blake, and I'm super excited to talk to you, man. Thank you for being willing to do this. And
Yeah.
so, just to give you guys a little bit of background, I met Blake originally probably about a month ago at a coffee shop called Lux here in Phoenix. And originally, when I saw you, we were just talking about this. Um, he was out there with these poster boards, and I thought, you were talking to a small group of people, and I thought you guys were doing like protests, making like protest signs. That's what I thought. So, but I kind of watched, what you were doing, and you approached another couple, and I kind of took my headphones out, and I was kind of
Right.
overheard a little bit about what you were talking about, and um, honestly, you just being there that day, like the vibe was so positive, and once I overheard a little bit about your story, and it was just very interesting. So, I mean, just to kind of get into it, what were you doing out there with the poster boards, and kind of how did that start?
Well, I was protesting. No, I'm just joking. It was. It's this journey I've been on for. Gosh, it's been. What is today? The 1,317th day in a row
Wow.
that I've been on this journey, and it all started with a moment of laughter I had on a suicidal night. Several years back, I was diagnosed with PTSD. And that was because there was a night 3 guys came into my home. I was held down. I was sexually assaulted. It just wiped me out. And over time, I just isolated from people. I got angrier and angrier. And there was a point where I was diagnosed. Some of the therapists sat down with me and we talked it out about what happened that night. And it was November 2nd, 2015. I had prepared to take my life. And
Wow. Oh
there are people out there that will sit there and think, well, people that have tried to take their life before, they get it. They'll talk to me and say, oh, I've thought about doing that before. I had a moment where I came close, but I was wiped out. And there was a point where I just thought, this is it. Because every time I talk to my family, they, I mean, either I lie to them and tell them everything is fine,
Really?
and it's not, so then I'm not getting help. Or I tell them everything, and then they have the secondary PTSD because now there's
Secondary. I've never heard that before.
No, yeah, and I never heard it either. It's just people that are close to you, whether it's their family or friends, they start feeling the effects of whatever you're feeling. So if you're, it's almost like somebody that has stage 4 cancer. If they're going through a lot of difficulties and maybe they're going into hospice care, everybody close to them is being impacted by that. But in this case, the therapist told me with the severity of my PTSD, people are going to feel that. They're going to know, like, I'm not sleeping, that when I do sleep, I have nightmares, or that I'm struggling with so many triggers. And so at some point, I just thought, I'm going to end all this because it's just not getting better. I had physical pain from that night. And so I was going through so much physical therapy. It's just your life is upside down. And the biggest part is you're sleep deprived.
Yeah.
So I just prepared to take my life on November 2nd, 2015.
Wow.
And on that night, I had all my pills out and I was ready, and you come to peace with it. And at some point, the Late Show with Stephen Colbert was on my TV, and it's just this moment. The TV had always been on, but it was just this moment that I laughed, and I later on told people, I'll never remember the joke. People ask me all the time, like, what was the joke that made you laugh that night? And you paused the show. It wasn't what was coming into me that was important. It was what was coming out of me. And I sat there and I paused the show and I just thought, I just laughed. And I'm getting ready to take all these pills and end my life with laughter. And it didn't make sense. It was almost like the universe or God. I leave it up to everybody I meet, whether it was the universe or God, put that moment in my life for a reason. And I just paused and I thought, I can't do this. I think it's a sign that I'm not ready to go. Whatever it was, I said, I'm going to get on this show and I'm going to tell my story. And I think this is a sign that I'm supposed to keep going, tell my story someday about what happened to me. And I have to learn to talk about this. And so the whole idea was born that I was going to get on this late show with Stephen Colbert. I had no idea how.
So how long after this incident happened were you kind of like seriously, suffering and considering taking your life?
Oh, after the sexual assault?
Yeah.
Gosh, this was probably, a couple of years.
Wow.
I went a couple of years. There was a moment, all these dates, I think it was May of 2014.
Okay.
That it was May of 2014. I was reading a Time magazine article, and the cover story was sexual assault in campuses.
Really? Wow.
So I would always get Time magazine. I remember at lunch I was reading that article, and I remember I paused the TV because the TV was on too, and I paused it and I reflected on what I was reading, and I thought, this is actually what happened to me that night. Wow. Sexual assault.
Yeah.
Because as they were describing things, and it was just that moment that, I called the police that night. I filed a report.
Yeah.
I told one of my good friends. But the problem is the perpetrators, I knew all three of them.
That's crazy.
And
That's
they
crazy.
told me within the week after that rape, they said that none of them were involved. They said, I misread that. I misunderstood what happened.
Oh my God.
The police actually, nobody did anything. If you could
Really?
Yeah, I mean, if you can imagine
my
Christine
God.
Blasey Ford, she was criticized by the Senate, the people in the Senate that when she testified, I remember a senator said, well, the three things they asked her mainly were, well, did you tell anybody this happened to you?
Yeah.
She said no. Immediately following, I guess within a couple of days, couple of weeks, she said no. They said, did you file a police report? No. And they said, did you, I forget the third one. There were three main things, though, that...
This was with that Kavanaugh or whatever guy?
Yeah, with Brett Kavanaugh.
Yeah.
And I thought, they said, did you even call the police that night? Well, I called the police that night. I filed a police report, an incident report that night. And then I told one of my best friends the next day, all the things that they wanted Christine Blasey Ford to do, I did. But with the police that night, they've since apologized to me last summer.
Really? Wow.
The Phoenix police, they met with me in a really prominent third party, and they said, we're sorry. It looks like we made mistakes the night of your rape. And when we were there, we should have arrested all those guys. They said, you told us that your clothes were taken off you. They were attacking you. And they said, we were so sorry. They said, what can we do moving forward to make things better?
Yeah.
So...
That's crazy, man.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
And so when I look back, I think I did everything I'm supposed to do. And so at some point, you start shutting down. And that's what happened with me, is that you have this skewed version of what happened. I knew what happened, but when everybody around you tells you it didn't happen,
that's weird.
It's called gaslighting, but I think in some ways, like, it's not that they all were conspiring to hurt me.
Yeah.
It's just they saw, for whatever reasons, the Phoenix police told me they need to handle, because it was four gay guys, and they said they honestly feel they need sensitivity training when it comes to dealing, well, not just with gay people, but with guys in general.
Yeah.
Because if a guy, they're all straight, and he says, that guy just raped me, they might just laugh it off and go, that guy raped you.
Yeah.
And so we need to get past that. So the police I'm going to follow up with the Phoenix police and say, what measures have you guys taken since last August? Because it is important. But yeah, so it took me a while to process, but I did everything I was supposed to do that night. And subsequent to that, it's just I wasn't getting the support I needed from the most important people, the police at that time. They didn't have my back on that one.
So did you kind of close yourself off then from your friends and family during that, 2-year period after the incident?
Yeah, and I think people think it was immediate, but it wasn't. It's in some ways it's like a glacier. I mean, it moves slowly. It's not. I think people think, all right, boom, immediately. I was so angry and I was so isolating. And I shouldn't say it moves at the speed of a glacier, but it moves slowly. And it's not overnight. So overnight, I didn't just become this incredibly angry person. It manifests itself within you, and I didn't want to be around people.
Really?
And I started pulling away, and there were moments that were explosive anger that came out of me. Yeah. And it scared me, because I thought, this is not typical of who I am. I don't throw bottles at the walls and smash them when I drop my keys. So you just become a different person. And that was the PTSD.
So when after this you had this incident with the Late Show and Colbert, were you kind of immediately after that, did you start this project, and how did you come up with the poster boards and approaching people, and where did that come from?
Yeah, and it's just that whole idea. When I woke up the next day after I had that moment of laughter with the show, I didn't expect to live another day. It was like you wake up and you're really surprised, like, I'm still here.
Yeah.
But I mean, that night I went to bed with hope, with Esperanza. I just thought,
Esperanza.
I'm gonna keep going, and I found that hope. So the next day when I woke up, I thought, well, what do I do? Because I didn't have any plans.
Yeah.
And I woke up, I ate breakfast, and I said, well, I need paper. My computer's out of paper. So it was something so simplistic.
Yeah.
And I thought, I'm gonna go to the Staples store in Central Phoenix and buy paper. So I went, and I thought, just keep living your life like you would have.
Yeah.
And then I figured, somehow I'll figure out how to get on the show. So I was still excited. I thought, I'm going to do this. I don't know if I'm going to call the show, write a letter. Maybe I'll get some of my friends and I'll tell them what happened. I wasn't sure yet, but I thought, go buy paper and start doing your day, your routine. I went to the Staples store and I stood in front of these giant foam poster boards. They're about 8.5 feet in size. And I guess I stared at them. I don't know if it was for 30 seconds or 3 minutes, but I was just looking at them. Right. And I remember a lady sidled up to me at the store and she said, hey, can I help you, sir? And I remember I looked at her and thought, do you have more of these in the back? And she said, let me go check. And she went around the corner and then she turned back around and said to me, how many of them do you want? And I just thought, I didn't say I wanted any. I think I was curious. Does she have 5 of them? Does she have 15? Because in my head, I think I was trying to process, like, what do a bunch look like?
Oh my God.
And she turned around and she looked at me and I said, you know what? I'll just take all the boards you have.
Really?
And I bought them all.
Holy shit.
And then at that moment, it was people say, oh, is it the aha moment? That was it. I pictured, I will go and I will learn how to tell my story to people. I will learn how to talk to people, like, one at a time, un dia a la vez, just a day at a time. I will do this and take back my life. And I'll tell them I want to get on the show. I'll tell them what happened. And then I think the most important thing with the boards and all the Sharpie markers I bought is that I said it would be a visual confirmation that every day I'm actually getting out.
That's awesome.
And I can see every day, like, somebody signed their name and said, it's like, it's really like you, like, hey, Austin, I talked to you today and I'll sign my name. And then if 50 other people did that in a week, you could look and go, look at this. I made progress today.
Yeah.
I talked to 50 people. Not only do I want to get on the show to send this story, but these people want. And then what happened is people started putting messages. They started putting more than just their name.
Yeah.
And then the messages over the journey got bigger and bigger. And they now have signed them in 89 languages, 27 Sharpie colors. So it just became something more than I imagined. But that's how the whole journey began with the boards.
So do you think, like, that piece of doing this, as far as, like, approaching people and talking to people and getting feedback, like, has that been therapeutic in a way to kind of, like, connect with people again?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
because I just, like, me being in a setting like this, I wouldn't have done a few years ago.
Really?
No, because I was pretty content with just staying home and just being, I was just like a dog in a kennel. Like, dogs in a kennel, though, they're happy because, I mean, they're enclosed for 6 to 8 hours. They're okay with being in a kennel because that's their little space. They feel safe. I felt safe there, but the thing is, with me being in my quote-unquote kennel, I wasn't going to have interaction with a lot of people. And so when I got out every day and I was meeting people, I told myself, you're going to do this till you get on the show. And
that's crazy. Wow,
yeah, because people have asked me,
badass.
they said, well, how in the heck do you think you're going to get on the show? Do you have a plan? No. I said, really, I figured I would figure it out as I went.
Yeah. That's great. I like that.
Yeah, and you just, on the journey, like when I met you or meet other people have suggestions like, well, did you try this? Or did you try talking to this person? Each day, each week, each month, somebody new comes to my life. And then the other thing is when people are posting this or sharing it with Colbert, I have a friend back in the Chicago area. He said 3 times a month he sends messages to Colbert. It says, get Blake on the show.
Seriously?
Yeah, and so I don't know how many people are out there doing it, but the goal I'm trying to get on this show as a
Mm-hmm.
guest and then present all these and just tell the story.
Yeah, yeah.
It's an incredibly hard show to get on.
Is
Because
it?
I'm not
I would imagine.
yeah, I'm just not a celebrity.
Yeah, not yet.
And I don't have 100,000 followers.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I'm not like Joe Rogan where
Yeah.
he's got, I think, 1 million followers. But
It took him so long though to build that
build
up.
that?
Yeah, when have you seen like the videos of him when he originally started?
no.
Okay, so he started like this in his house, and he
Oh.
did it with another guy, Brian Redband, and they, they just like talk shit basically. And the original recordings they're so terrible, man. Like the video quality looks like they did
Yeah.
it like with a potato. Like it's so bad. But I think he's been doing it for like, I want to say like 10 years or something like
Has it
that
been
now.
that
But
long?
at some point, he said like a few years ago, it really like just blew up and kind of like took on a life of its own. But yeah, I told you like I'm a huge, obviously like
Yeah,
Joe
you
Rogan
were.
fan. I think his show is so inspirational. I think you would be freaking awesome on there for sure. But what's kind of like if you were on Colbert, or when you get on Colbert,
I know.
what's kind of like the main like message that you want to get out there to people, or like what do you want people to know about your experience and what you've learned?
I think the biggest thing is it's just so incredibly symbolic. I think just by getting there, sometimes I think the rest can take care of itself. I have some ideas of what I like to talk to with Colbert, but I think in some ways I could look at him and say, I've made it. This was the destination, and just wanting to share the journey. People say you only have 5 minutes on this show.
Yeah.
But if I could even sum up what those 5 minutes, what this journey has been like, I think too, just to let people know that it took 29,208 people I've met.
That's crazy,
that have
man.
signed these boards. And those are all people that one by one I've met, and they've shared back with me. So to get on the show, yes, it is symbolic, but there are issues too that if he wanted to talk about, I could go any direction with him.
Yeah.
We could talk about, I think the overall theme would be that there is triumph beyond trauma. And one of the things that a bunch of the media have asked me, and even people in the journey will ask, is that how do you think you're going to get on a show about comedy?
Yeah.
You're talking about a dark subject matter
Yeah.
like sexual assault, domestic violence, suicide. But I said to people, comedy is not the absence of trauma.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Comedy is the ability to take our traumas in life and find a way to laugh.
Yeah.
And if you think of all the late night shows or all the comedy shows, Ellen's on during the day, and then you've got all the rest of the folks mostly on at night. But the big thing is they're there because we need comedy. We need comedy so that we can get through these moments. If life were just amazing all the time, comedians, we wouldn't need them. It's just like, why would we need hospitals if everybody was healthy? There would be no hospitals. And so we wouldn't need comedy if it wasn't for all the traumas and
That's
difficulties.
interesting. Yeah.
So, I would really, that could be something we could touch on. At the end, I would probably want to mention to Colbert, he would hopefully give me the chances, what's next? That tends to be one of the biggest questions that's asked of me. But now I have 447 of those giant foam poster boards with just tens of thousands of messages. I'd want to find somebody, a sponsor, to say, what can we do with these boards? Can we get a permanent location, put all the boards in there? I have just, I've taken pictures with like 4,500 people I've met on the journey. So we could blow those up, show those pictures. We could have the video showing that journalists have done stories, or the documentary or TEDx talk. So I think it could be I know this could be an amazing permanent exhibit so that people can come in and see what I've seen.
That's awesome.
Because otherwise these boards are going to stay with me for the rest of my life. And then nobody's going to be impacted except those close to me. So
you know what you should do is you should approach whoever makes those things.
Oh, these
the
boards?
Yeah. Be like, hey, I got like 500 of these, and
And the
that'd be
Sharpie
interesting.
company, I would love.
Oh yeah, Sharpie, yeah.
But something should be done with this.
Yeah, that's
awesome. That's when people see the boards, it's the most powerful part, because people like to see, they want to see who I've been interacting with, and they want to see how you guys have helped me. So in some ways too, going back to Colbert, if he wanted to guide it, I just feel like there are so many stories to share and so much, but I think the positivity would come out of it anyway. Just knowing that this guy spent this long to get on your show, and it took these many tens of thousands of people to keep him going.
Yeah.
Because I will run into people all the time that they have a big goal and they wonder, am I going to get to it someday?
Yeah.
You will. It's a lot of us. It takes more than us. It takes like you. I met you, and you're helping push me ahead. And so in some ways too, I just like to see what the journey has for me.
Yeah,
I just
definitely.
sort of like to let it unravel as it happens.
Do you ever think about what would have, like, if you would have taken your life that day, everything you would have missed out on so far? Like, does that ever like cross your mind?
I mean, because I look now, it's like, wow. Yeah, had I not recognized that moment, I wouldn't be here today. And it would be. One of my friends said to me the other day, it's called The Butterfly Effect.
Yeah,
there was a movie.
There was a movie. I think Ashton Kutcher was in that. That was a badass movie.
I need to see that. And he told me, he said it's similar to the question you just asked me. Like, if something would change in your life just slightly, and so if I wouldn't have recognized that laughter that night, no, I wouldn't be here.
Yeah.
And you would be able to, all these boards would be gone.
Yeah.
I mean, there have been 5 art exhibits with these. Those are all wiped out. Wow. There was the documentary. That's gone. The TEDx talk. That's gone. And you just look, I think maybe there have been, I don't know, it's 45 or 50 news outlets have done some stories in this. Okay. So you never know, like when they do a story in El Paso or in Rochester, New York, or Fresno, California, if this journey wouldn't have happened, then those stories wouldn't have gone out in those communities, and then you don't know who would have been impacted or who wouldn't have. All those pictures, because pictures are powerful. People are so visual. So when people are like, oh my gosh, you met these 8 people from the South yesterday, that's so nice, and they came and visited, and then sometimes people see like, oh, I met people in El Paso, and I put pictures up of the people I met, and there have been people that message me like, I know those people in that picture.
Really?
Yeah.
That's hilarious.
So all of that would have been gone, and you could start wiping that away. And then approximately 2,400 people I've met on the journey have opened up to me about sexual assault.
Wow.
And
how many?
About 2,400.
Holy shit, man.
Yeah, I mean, that's just like literally, it happened already this week. Like a few people, I'm remembering that they said I was sexually assaulted also.
Do you find is it mostly women or is it a mix?
Mostly women, but the thing is, out of those 2,400, several hundred of those have been guys, and that's unusual because guys almost never. You think women don't talk about sexual assault?
Yeah.
Try getting guys.
Yeah.
So the fact is that this journey we're gone, you can start eliminating, and I don't have exact numbers, but I know. Again, it goes back to several hundred of the people that told me had never told anybody before, ever. And so those few hundred people, and then people think, oh, it's all about me, that I opened it up on that. Yeah. No, it's this, like in Spanish, they say nosotros. It's not about me, it's not about them, it's about us. And so with us, that's helped, like that synergy has helped this journey keep going. Yeah. And so people give me the courage and the energy to say, I'm going to keep going. And as I keep going, those people will start opening up to me. So we would have missed all these people. I guess what would be comparable is those hundreds of people that for the first time told me. That was the first time they told anybody they were sexually assaulted. It's like somebody with cancer for the first time finding out from their doctor, you have cancer. Yeah. And now they're getting treated for it finally. Because until somebody talks, they can't heal. Because you have to recognize the problem. And if you can't address it with somebody outside of yourself, the likelihood of healing is really low. Yeah. Because you carry this weight of the world. Oof. So all of that, it would have been gone had this journey not begun, and I wouldn't be here. And then you start wondering, like, who would have been impacted? Yeah, I mean, I'm sure my family and friends would have been incredibly sad that I was gone.
Have you like changed significantly as like a person, like your attitude towards life, or?
Well, I'm still here.
Yeah.
Somebody, so I'm still going, but
I mean, like little things. Like sometimes I'll be doing something and like something will go wrong, and for a second, like I'll be like, oh fuck, like like you get pissed off, and then like I try to like realize, okay, this isn't that big of a deal, like right. But like, do you like less little things bother you now, or is it?
Yeah, and I guess a great example I can give you would be, I don't know if I shared this with you too when I met you at the coffee shop, but There was this moment. I go to Chipotle and Subway a lot.
Oh,
To
hell
me-
yeah, dude. I'm like number one Chipotle fan.
Yeah.
And customer.
And I go a
Shout
lot
out to
because
Chipotle.
I end up getting extra rice and beans. They'll give that to you for free. And when I get the bowl, always extra rice and extra beans. So then what I do is I cut the bowl in half. I'll eat half for one meal and half
Really?
for the other. So then it's
wow.
economical for me. It has the vegetables in there.
Yeah.
And then I do the same with Subway. I used to always eat a foot long, but I always
Okay.
get the most inexpensive sub every day. And I cut it in half. And partly, I mean, it was a big part because I can't afford a lot of food. So, but when I went into Chipotle, they see me probably 4 times a week.
Really?
Subway's the same way, maybe more. And so at 7th and McDowell, at that store, it was so busy one lunch hour, and a bunch of the people, they knew me, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, he's back, Blake." The store was packed with people. There was a big line, and there were probably 5 people working the line serving the food. And on that particular day, one of the workers, she said, "Oh my gosh, you're back again." She's like, "We love you, but don't you get sick of eating the same food every day?"
Yeah.
And I just remember it came out of me. It was like my whole lifetime I waited for a question like that,
Really?
and I could hear the answer came out of me, but it didn't feel like it was me. It felt like I was like looking above and I was looking down at myself,
Wow.
because at some point it just came out, and I said, after she asked me, "Don't you get sick of eating the same food every day?" I said, I went through a trauma that almost killed me one night, and I'm just happy I'm alive and eating anything.
Wow.
And then when
You said that to her?
Yeah, and I
Holy
heard it come
shit,
out of
man.
me. And
That's
then,
hardcore.
and then I remember everybody in the line, the 5 people serving the food, stopped and looked at me. And then it
Wow.
got strangely quiet. All the people that were sitting at the tables next to me, they stopped. And it was this moment of about 5 seconds that you realize those words just came out, but everybody within about 10 feet of me stopped.
Yeah.
And I just thought, oh my gosh, why did I say that? And I sat there, and I remember the only time I moved is this guy behind me was tapping me on the shoulder, and I turned around, and the woman behind him was crying.
Really? Oh
Yeah.
my God.
And
wow.
the guy behind me, when he
Shit.
tapped me, he said, "Thank you, brother. We needed that." And he was nodding his head, and the other people were nodding. And I remember looking at everybody, and they started going back to what they were doing. But when you asked me, how have I changed?
Yeah.
That moment, it might have only lasted 5 to 10 seconds. That's how I've changed. I've learned to appreciate the smaller things in life. And the fact is that it would have come out of me that way. And I didn't do it to get a reaction. I did it because that was the first thing I could think of. And yet all those people around me weren't appreciating the finer, smaller moments in life until I said that. And then it made them think, like, I honestly truly believe for those 10 seconds, that's why the restaurant got so quiet, is because whatever they were doing in their life, it didn't matter, because they were starting to think, what do I take for granted? And the fact that guy tapped me on the shoulder, that woman was crying, and everybody was shaking their head. So that's how my life is changing, because I'm starting to appreciate those smaller things in life. Someday I'll get on this show, and I feel like I've run up a lot of debt, but I don't take opioids anymore. It's been 32 straight months with no
Really?
opioids.
You took opioids?
I was, and I talked with some of the doctors, and they said, yeah, you were addicted to these because you were on them for so long. Your dosage was going up.
What, they prescribed you this after as like a...
Because I did have back pains. And then later on, I didn't really associate it with that night, because I didn't associate much with that night. You're trying to push it out of your head after a while. But we were able to trace back the back problems. All the pain I was having was started from that night.
Yeah, wow.
One of the guys, Ryan, when he jumped on me, how he twisted my back. And that's where all the problems happened. So then I had to go through a lot of physical therapy over the years. And opioids would help with the pain. But over time, the opioids, they give you a euphoric feeling. And it starts, it's not meant for this, but it's treating your PTSD, which is the worst thing because of that euphoria you get from narcotics.
Yeah, that's not good.
No.
So how long did you take opioids?
Gosh, maybe 3 years.
Wow.
And so when you're taking
Holy
that
shit,
long,
man. That's a
I
long
mean,
time.
it was almost every day for a period of time. And so when you're on those, and I was dependent on sleeping pills.
Wow.
In a lot of ways, I used the word embarrassed. I was just embarrassed to tell people how much I took sleeping pills, how much I took opioids, because I didn't want to talk about it.
Yeah.
And I was, so for 32 straight months, this journey has had that impact that it's allowed me to pull off all the opioids, all the sleeping pills, and all of the psych meds.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, and so
That's awesome.
I attribute it to you and then people I've been meeting. Is like you guys have had this great impact because I'm able to learn how to talk about my trauma. I'm able to process it. I have a goal. I have a purpose. I didn't have all that before. And so now to some people, they might think, get a job, like go out and do a regular job. Yeah. Like, what are you doing going around meeting people and having people sign stuff on your boards? But I look at people and say, well, do you have a purpose in life? What's your purpose? Not to like castigate them for anything they're doing wrong, but I want to look at somebody and say, but what do you do? Like, tell me what you do. You want me to take and get a job right now, but I meet so many people that are either they're unhappy with their jobs.
Yeah, most people.
Yeah, or they'll do a job. They know it makes money and they're sort of okay with their jobs, but I mean, for the most part, they're happy with their lives. But then I ask them, like, what do you really want to do in your life? Are you doing it right now? No, but when I retire, I want to own a bed and breakfast, or I want to do this.
When you retire, you're going to be dead and tired and not want to do anything.
So I feel like, to be honest with you, even if I leave here right now and I get hit by a bus and I die,
I hope not.
I mean, it's terribly tragic. Do I want that to happen? No. But if I were to die today, I feel like I've left a legacy, like working with all of you guys that I've met over the last couple of years. And I feel like there's enough out there that I feel like, wow, I've left something behind that I'm going to be proud of. Like I worked so hard to bring so many people together and we've done it, and we've done a really good job of leaving something that's going to let people know, like, there is hope. There's this triumph after the trauma. So I feel like I do have that purpose and I do have that goal. And someday I've been there's a guy, Ralph. He's in Oakland, California. We've been talking for months about getting a book about this. Okay, and he's going to try and, he's been a writer for years. And so we're trying to find the funding because he would have to set aside 3 to 6 months to write it.
Okay.
But he's of the same mindset as me. He said, let's get this into a book form so people can see the journey, because he said people, they want to be taken on a journey. They want to see what you've been able to see with all these people. So, I mean, that's another idea. But I think the beauty of that is, like, when we all die, whatever's in our heads goes with us. Yeah. And so I thought, well, let's see. Let's make this happen, Ralph. And so we're working on this right now.
That's awesome.
And yeah. So, I mean, I think that would be something else that we could leave behind someday and say, we were here. You know, somebody writes on a rock, I was here. Yeah. And that's sort of us doing the same thing, except we're leaving this amazing story of almost 30,000 strangers coming together for this common purpose. So
that's crazy. That's what I think is interesting about the internet too, is it's like, it's such a new thing. Is like, how long, like when this video was uploaded, like how long is that going to be out, on the internet? Or I mean, it's like, it's kind of weird to think
this
like,
could be like,
maybe you're a hologram in like 50 years or something like that.
Yeah. And it's just, as we talk right now, people will be able to capture this moment that we're having. And I mean, there's something beautiful to that too, because people will share that. They'll, if something strikes a chord with something that we're discussing, you don't know. You plant that seed, and like by you doing this with me, we don't know what seed's going to be planted. And so 20 years from now, somebody might pick up a video of this and say, these guys were talking 20 years ago about something idea. But to me, it doesn't matter how much technology we have. Interpersonal is always going to be so critical. Yeah. Like, I mean, if you talk to people, I think the one thing that's held true for millennia is that we need this interaction with each other. Because we could have the greatest technology in the world, but if people, they don't have sometimes that touch, or they don't smell somebody, they don't see them, they don't hear them, but a lot of times it's the touch and the connections.
So what do you think about that? Because I swear to God, with that day when I met you, because I go to coffee shops in Lux all the time, and most of the time I go there, and it's people are on their laptops or doing their own thing, and it sometimes I'll talk to people, but honestly most of the time you don't end up talking to anybody. Right. But when you were out there, I could feel like the positivity and people interacting with you and having fun. I mean, do you think Do you see anything as far as like how technology has affected the way people interact or how you interact or?
Yeah, I mean, there was a guy I saw. Oh gosh, Bill Maher has a show.
Oh yeah, I
on
love Bill Maher.
Yeah, he's
Yeah.
well, he's quite a provocateur.
Yeah, he is, man.
People like, but I think it's a lot of times too. He gets these discussions going, and it can be very polarizing. But you get a lot of viewpoints. But what I liked about Bill Maher in this particular show last November, he had a guy on, professor from NYU, and cannot think of the guy's name, but it was sometime in November 2018. This professor did a book, and it was dealing with like what you're talking about, this interaction and what's technology done. But he was discussing how seemingly we're more connected with social media and all the outlets that we have, but he said that's not really the case. And what he was discussing, he said the suicide rates for young people is up significantly.
For women, I've heard it's
Yes.
like crazy, like
And he
super high.
And he talked about that, and he said for guys, I think the category was like 22 and under for guys. And he said it's gone up. It was maybe 20%, 25%, which is significant.
That's a lot, yeah.
And when he said that, wow, people were thinking, oh gosh, that's a lot. But then he got around to the young females during the same time span, maybe 10 years prior to when he was discussing. And he said, in my book, I say, if you think the guy's suicide rate went up, the women, it went up like 75%. And so the audience gasped when he said that. But I'll always remember, he said, the whole tenor of what he was talking about is we are disconnected. And younger people, they'll talk and they'll share things on social media, but he said especially females, if they get a negative response on social media, it's like the death knell. They're just done. And he said, guys, it's harsh, but they find some other outlets and they move on. But he said for women, it's just young women, it really is so hurtful, and they feel like there's no recovery from that. And the sadness is, but people feel like social media is that powerful. We have to pull off of that and realize there's a whole other world out there.
Yeah, the real
I feel
world.
like the movie Aladdin, a whole new world,
Oh
when they sing that. But there truly is on the other side of social media. And so I get to see that every day. When I meet people every single day, I've met 22 strangers every day for how many days? 1,317 days in a row.
That's awesome.
And so can you imagine, like almost 24 people I will walk up to, and in some cases people think, oh, I can walk up to a room of 24 people. That's not how I do it. I'll walk up. Some days I'll meet 5, 6, 7 people, but there are some days that it might take me an hour to meet one person because I've talked to other people that I've already met in the past.
Oh, okay.
And so technically I'm not counting them as somebody new I've met, but I may go up to a couple people and they don't want to talk to me, or a restaurant. Sure. They might be busy. Or it could be that they just assume like, oh my God, this guy wants money from me. So I'll run into that. Or I could go to an establishment for the first time, tell like the baristas at a coffee shop, hey, I do this project where I meet people. Can I do this here? No, we don't want you bothering our clients.
Really? Wow.
And so it could take an hour to meet my first person, hour and a half. But there's a beauty. Like when you meet that first person of the day, it's just, it's it's magical because you've just made this connection, and it's not by clicking a button. It's not by liking something with your finger. It's actually by shaking their hand or hugging them. Or yesterday, the 7 people that I met at this coffee shop, we spent I bet it was closer to 45 minutes to an hour. We were just all talking.
Wow.
And
That's
they all
awesome.
hugged me. And actually, they all got in a big circle at this big coffee shop downtown. And they said, can we pray for you? So there was this big prayer circle. And for that moment, when you're in those moments, and I said to somebody in the documentary, they put that piece in. I was interviewed by some of the journalists, and I said, even if you're atheist or agnostic and somebody said, I want to pray for you, why wouldn't you still let them pray for you? Because that means that they want to bring whatever their energy they feel is palpable, they want to give to you. So take it. I mean, that's how I look at it. It's like they want to give you, in their way, they want to give you their gift.
Good vibes.
Yeah. And so, that's how I look at it. It doesn't matter if you're of a different religious denomination, you're atheist, agnostic, somebody wants to do something good. So if they touch you and they say, I want you to heal, if they shake your hand, if they nod at you, but those are all things, with social media, there's no way. Those nuances are just, they're not there.
Yeah.
There's something beautiful about interpersonal, right there.
Yeah, I agree. I definitely agree. So, can I ask you about one thing that I saw in that documentary video that they did with you or of you? Um, and one part I think I remember they kind of went over you talking about medical marijuana, and I have my medical marijuana card, and I'm a big supporter of cannabis.
Right.
Is that something that's helped you as far as like with the opioid type thing, getting over that, or just in
Yeah.
general, has that helped you?
I would prefer, and now because I had the car accident 5 weeks ago,
Yeah.
and I was hospitalized for a traumatic brain injury.
Damn.
I've been struggling so badly for the last every day. I've had headaches since
Really?
the accident. Yeah, and I told the doctors in the hospital. I said, as a last resort, give me opioids. I go, please don't.
Yeah.
I've been off of these things for almost 3 years straight. I said, please choose wisely. When I was hospitalized the third time in the last month, they gave me morphine in an IV. That was hard on me.
Really?
It helped take the head pain away, but I was still nervous because I was like, ah. But now I'm actually starting to use CBD oil.
Oh, nice.
And
Oh, yeah.
I'm looking at potentially getting my marijuana card updated.
Okay. Yeah.
Because I would prefer to take THC any day over
Really?
opioids, and especially because I'm dealing with head pain and nausea.
Yeah,
And I know a lot of people that have nausea. The THC to marijuana will help dissipate those issues.
Okay.
So with the head pain and the nausea, honestly, a lot of the meds that I've been given by the doctors for the pain, it's not helping too much. CBD oil is helping somewhat. So I have to really, I think marijuana is going to be my next option because I need something that's not going to be addictive. I need something that's going to help me because I need to be able to live my life until the doctors can do all the neurological testing with me. And then the more that my traumatic brain injury, the TBI, persists, that actually can cause me to have issues with the PTSD.
Oh, hell yeah.
Because now I'm having moments where I'm not sleeping, and it takes me back to those moments when I had sleep deprivation. So I have to be really careful right now because this is a touch and go time for me.
Yeah.
But see, I made that answer much longer than I should have.
No, it's
marijuana
good. That's good. Yeah,
is preferable.
Yeah.
For me, it's preferable over all the other
Well, that's what
drugs.
especially with the brain thing. There's been a ton of people on Rogan. I've seen on other whatever outlets that talk about because that's becoming a big thing. Like in the NFL with these guys is they're using cannabis because obviously they're getting destroyed and they're starting to do some research now, and some NFL players have actually funded research to help see what happens when you use cannabis and how it affects the brain, and they're actually. Things are beginning to come out where it actually is helping, these people, and those guys get screwed for sure, big time.
Oh my gosh!
With all the head trauma and whatever else. Have you did you experiment with like edibles at all or anything like that? Or
I did in the past, and I actually preferred the edibles.
Really?
I know it's like I think they call it titration. You have to just figure out like what works for you, how much of a brownie, how much. They have so many things now.
Yeah, I know.
But which of the edibles, like how much do you eat? Like somebody said, if you have a brownie this size, do you eat it all at once?
No, hell no. Yeah, hell no.
You take it a piece at a time and you figure out. I guess that's the true definition of titration is like take a little bit, figure out what you need. Otherwise, you're just wasting a lot of it because you could utilize that for a later time period. So I did like the edibles, and the reason I stopped everything is because I always preferred to be off all meds.
Yeah, definitely.
And so at a period of time when I got to be much more stabilized, I just thought I'm going to stay off everything.
Yeah.
But because of the traumatic brain injury, I have to figure out what I'm going to do because it's been really hard, especially these last 5 weeks.
Yeah. That'll help you sleep for sure, man.
Yeah, and I need sleep.
Yeah.
And take that away from somebody, and it's hard to process. It's hard to think. But at night, usually my pain is so bad from the head pain. The night is the worst.
That's not good.
No, and the nausea is bad. So this journey. And I was actually, on the day I was doing this project, I was going to go meet people. And
really?
The car accident happened. So I wasn't able to meet.
Yeah.
Or get to the destination and meet people that day.
Yeah. Do you read? Do you read all these?
Oh, the boards?
You
do. And that's actually what helped me significantly. I mean, each day, the first 6 months, it was just pure therapy because I needed to get around people. So I'd get around people, and at the end of the day, I'd come home and I'd read all these messages. I told somebody, imagine you get, I mean, in the early going, I was probably meeting closer to 40 or 50 people a day.
Wow, that's crazy.
Not 22, but it was because I would spend less time. Now I spend a lot more time with people, but on some days, you're meeting 50 people. One by one, you find people, you talk to them, and it's like people are giving you 50 Hallmark cards. Think about it. Like if you had a birthday and somebody's giving you 50 Hallmark cards to read, and at the end of every day, you're reading 50 Hallmark cards that are personalized to you. That's the equivalent of what I was getting. And then imagine somebody that is struggling, that didn't want to be around people. You have PTSD. You don't really have this. You didn't feel that you had a purpose. And now you're going home and reading these messages or these quote unquote cards every day. It gave me just a fresh approach to everything. And then there were days that I would just sit and I would reread these. I would just pull these giant boards on my bed.
That's beautiful.
There was one night, probably one of the coolest moments on the journey is, I'm going to guess this was 6 months in, maybe it was 4 months in, but I would still have some issues with sleeping some nights, and I was still, at that time, I was still taking the pills to sleep, but at one point, I remember this night, I had my television set on, the lamp was on, I'm laying in bed, and I just picked up a bunch of the boards, and I was struggling to get to bed that night, so I was reading the boards, and it was almost like reading a book, but it's a massive book. So at some point I fell asleep, and I remember waking up at like 2 a.m. and the TV was on. These boards were all on top of me, like falling asleep with a book on top of you. And I remember I just got up, I clicked the remote control, turned off the TV, and I pushed the boards off me and turned off the lamp, and I went to bed for another 5 or 6 hours. But the thing is, somebody will say, well, what's the most important part of that? Is because I didn't take those pills that night. I was sleeping, I was getting ready to do something, but the boards actually put me to bed. It was almost like a mom singing a lullaby to a kid. And that night, those messages, all those people put, is what put me to sleep. And it was crazy. The soothing aspect of that, because I still would struggle at that point. And then as time went on, it's just the fact that you're able to process better what's been happening to you through those boards.
I think especially now, like what you were talking about, with all these different messages and, and then bringing back technology into it. And I think a lot of people feel, whether you have PTSD or not, like people can feel isolated and like nobody cares about you. But I think what you're showing with this is like, most people out there, like they want other people to do well and like care about other people and not, they're not assholes. So it's like, there is a lot of people out there that you can interact with. And, I think maybe some people feel like, even if you are in a big city, you can feel like, a ton of people talked about this, you can feel like alone, even though you're surrounded by people.
Yeah, and I've met people in New York City with this when I was there. New York City people there were the hardest to talk to.
Really?
Because they're the most guarded. They told me, they use that word guarded. They want to know, why are you approaching them? They're bombarded by constant stimuli, like cars honking, people coming up to them, people asking, hey man, you got a buck for me? Hey man, do you know where I can go to find where did the Twin Towers used to be? Where's this? Where's that? Where did I pick up my cab? Or they're trying to get money, like, hey man, I want to show you something about religion. You want to come to my... And people just said, at some point, you just go, stop. And so I think one of the greatest accomplishments on this journey is to get several dozen New Yorkers to take time to stop and listen to me. I told people, if you want a challenge, you go walk up to somebody and say, can I talk to you for a minute? I have to show you something. Oh my gosh, New Yorker. But the thing is with New Yorkers, they're exactly what you described. They want to talk to people. They just don't know who to trust. And the thing is, they have all these issues, and they're surrounded by, in the metro area, 17 million people. In the city alone, 7.5 to 8 million. Man. And in some cases, they don't know, like, who do I trust? So they trust nobody. And they may only have 2 or 3 friends. In some cases, if somebody moved to a city and they're working with people, they don't really consider those friends or just people they know. And people would tell me, they're like, I don't really know who to trust. And I don't know who to talk to. And so they do feel alone. It happens not just in New York City, but you will get some of the bigger metro areas where people, they live a life all alone. And it's just we can't have that. Like
no, that sucks.
And the thing is, I tell people to break it down. I mean, even here in Phoenix, like where I live, is in the Arts District. So that's my neighborhood.
Okay.
And then you've got all these other neighborhoods close by. So that's what we have to do is you have to break it into pieces. But it can be so overwhelming if somebody sits there and says, "Oh my God, 1.5 million people live in Phoenix."
Yeah.
It's too overwhelming, and then they just pull away. I tell people just break it, and that's what I do every day. I break it down to pieces. Like as I meet a person, like when I met you at the coffee shop, and we're engaging, you're the only person in that world at that moment to me, because I can't focus on everybody else because it's too overwhelming. So you and I focus, and that's it. And then the more I learn about you guys, I talk about you. Like I'm talking about the 7 people I met yesterday. A couple from Arkansas, a couple from Alabama, one from Kentucky, and one from Mississippi. And it was so cool. I told them I'd probably talk about them.
Really?
Because they all left an impact on me.
Yeah.
And it was just neat to have that moment.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, I don't meet too many people from the South. Now I met 7 of you guys all at once.
Yeah.
And so for that 45 minutes or an hour, we were one.
Yeah.
It was just, but and here we are in the 5th biggest city in America.
Yeah.
But we took time to get to know each other for that hour.
Yeah, that was cool.
Nice.
Totally random. They didn't know it was going to happen.
I didn't know I was going to meet them. And now they're going to, for the next 5.5 weeks, they're going to be half a block away from me at one of the dorms in downtown's campus there.
That's crazy. So
we'll probably run into each other again.
Yeah.
And it'll be nice.
Do you watch Netflix? Do you use Netflix?
I do.
Have you seen the series The Kindness Diaries?
No.
Oh man, you gotta watch that.
I wonder if you told me about that before and I just didn't follow up. No, I don't think so.
It's this dude, his name is Leon, like Logothetis or something like that. But long story short, he worked like in the finance sector, I think, for most of his career, and he was pretty like unhappy and worked in big cities, and he decided he was gonna do this. There's 2 seasons, but the first season, he mapped out this route. Through the U.S., all through Europe, through Asia, India, and then back to the U.S. And his whole thing was he had this yellow motorcycle with a sidecar, and he was going to travel this. He was going to make this entire journey that he mapped out only on the kindness of strangers.
Oh,
so he did this whole. He had a camera crew following him, but it's crazy because it like takes it, day by day, and he meets people from like homeless people to like whatever, and they literally like fill his bike up with gas or give him a place to sleep and eat for the night, and it's so crazy. And the second season he does it in like this yellow Beetle, and he starts in Alaska and then he goes all the way down through the US and South America. And
so this is based on a true story.
Yeah,
this isn't just like a show. Like this.
Oh man, it's so cool. You would love it. It's really badass. Yeah. It's so like positive, and like it kind of reminds me of your story because it's very like in these times again, people feel disconnected, so it brings back that piece where like most people do care about each other and will help each other out, so it's pretty badass.
Yeah, I've never, and I do watch Netflix a lot, so I'll have to look at that, the Kindness Diaries. I have not heard of that, but I'm glad you're telling me that, because this is how I learn things, and then I end up passing on to other people, and that's why I ended up reading the book The Alchemist.
I've heard of that. What is that?
I had no idea until about a year and a half ago. So many people said, "Oh, Blake, you should read this book. It's similar to your journey." And after a while, I heard it over and over. And some lady one day, she was sitting at Songbird Coffee right adjacent to where I live downtown. She and a friend, I remember law students. They're graduated now. Almost everybody that went to school that met me on this journey is either graduated or moved on. It's been so long I've been doing it. But I remember she was sitting in the Adirondack chairs, her and her friend, and it was right before New Year's Eve a couple years ago. And she said, "You know what? I'm going to do something to change that." Meaning, you've heard about this book, but you haven't bought it yet. I'm going to drop it off at the barista, Brett, and I'll tell him to give it to you. And so, sure enough, I went back there a couple days later, and Brett said, "This woman dropped a book off for you." And I read it, and there's the main story behind, or one of the main quotes from this book. It says, "If you want something in life, the whole world will conspire to help you achieve it." And to me, it was so powerful, and that's why I realized so many people were saying to me, "You should read this. It's about your journey." Because I want to get to the Late Show. I have this purpose. I have this symbolic goal. But you guys are all conspiring to help me achieve it. It's exactly what The Alchemist says.
Yeah.
And it was a really popular book. A Brazilian author, I can't, Paulo something, Cohen or Paulo something. But anyway, everybody read it in the 80s and 90s, and it's still popular to this day. It's in all kinds of languages. But I talk about it a lot now because I think just imagine like in your life, like if you wanted to become a doctor, if you wanted to, I don't know, be a social worker, the world should conspire to help you get to that. We should all be helping. Somebody wants to have a baby. We should say, yeah, you know what can I do? not to impregnate
have
you,
that baby.
But like, what can I do to help you? Like if you're struggling or, do you need baby clothes or, you're afraid you're not going to be a good mom. Like, what can I do to help? We should all conspire to help somebody get to their goal. And I think that the essence of that book that I saw was we shouldn't question, like, if you come to me and say, well, my goal is to climb this mountain or my goal is to, give away 50 cars in my lifetime to people that truly need transportation. Then we should get behind you and help you because for some reason, that's what's important to you. The thing is, as long as somebody's not hurting themselves or hurting other people. I used to live with a couple of Wiccans, and I remember
Wiccans.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
It's like the witches. Like sometimes
really?
people call it. Yeah.
What the fuck?
It's just like people.
Awesome.
Yeah, and I lived with them. This was over in England.
Really?
They were amazing people, but they used to tell me like the main part of their religion is do what you want, just don't hurt other people. And to me, there's something so beautiful about that. Just go out in the world, just live your life. Don't worry so much about, oh my God, what's this person going to think about me? Just do your thing. And if enough of us just start doing our thing and we're not hurting other people, but that's where we can come together and say, I want to help you get to your goal. I want to conspire with other people. And just like in the book, The Alchemist, so I was really happy that people shared that with me. And I read that book because it gave me, and that's how I'm getting through this journey. There's no reason like this should keep going because I'm not working a full-time job. I mean, can you imagine 4 years of your life not working a full-time job? You're struggling, but somehow, some way, and I do odd jobs along the way. I pick up like cleaning jobs, but still every day. I mean, it's almost 11,000 hours I've done this without pay. But the world is helping me say, we're gonna get you there. And we're gonna deliver this message. I'm learning so much.
That's badass. That's beautiful. Is there anybody else or any other books out there that you've read that have been like, oh, this is really, like, I find this interesting and has changed my approach to life? Or like any people that, besides Colbert, obviously, that you love long time?
Gosh, I mean, I've read a lot of books in the past. I mean, in some cases too, this journey is just, I've gone back to like The Old Man of the Sea. It's Hemingway.
Okay.
I've always loved that book.
Really?
But it's the whole idea, The Old Man of the Sea, is this guy just keeps going out and he can't find any fish, and somebody stays with, I forget the little kid's name. He goes out with the old man, and the old man finally on this last day, he's reeling in a big fish, but he wasn't going to give up, and this kid wasn't going to give up on him. And so, I mean, even like being on this journey, I look and I think, oh my gosh, there have been some moments that parallel even that. Like, we have to go through these journeys. We can't give up. We can't, but people around us, to have this little kid and the old man in the sea not give up on the old man, he believed in him. Yeah. And so sometimes even shades of that come into this journey. Books, movies. I always make so many references to movies. Really? Like I've seen Erin Brockovich was one with Julia Roberts playing her, and it was just based upon Erin Brockovich.
Oh, I've had like so many people tell me about that movie recently. Yeah, what the
fuck?
And
it came out like 20 years ago.
That's so weird. I swear to God, I'm not lying. I've had like a handful of people tell me about that movie. It's so weird, Really?
Was it?
I had somebody the other day.
You see, the world is like conspiring to tell you to read.
I guess, yeah.
But it was out like 20 years ago. But it's just this dedication, this perseverance. Julia Roberts plays her character.
Oh my
but
God.
The woman ends up getting the biggest class action lawsuit in American history. I mean, maybe that's changed now in 20 years. But at that moment, it was like $300 or $400 million for the plaintiffs.
Wow.
But she didn't give up. She kept going and going. It took several years. She was rough around the edges. She had 3 kids, single mom. But like even movies like that, when I think about the journey that I'm on, I'm thinking but she had people around her that would help her and keep her going. But you have to have this persistence, this perseverance, and say, I've got to do this. I have this purpose. So even if I'm not reading new books or seeing new movies, sometimes the ones you've seen already or read, it has even more significance. And even like the Bible, if people don't believe in God, they can still look at the Bible and say it's literature. And so sometimes I tell people, like, let me look at some things in here, and they're like, oh, are you going to put God down my throat? I'm like, no. I want you to see this, because people are putting Bible verses on these boards. And again, if you don't see it as religion, just look at it as literature. And so it's interesting, why would they put certain Bible verses? So we analyze it and think, that's fascinating. Like somebody put that verse, and it has something to do with this journey somehow, but that's what they wanted to convey to me. Just no different than if somebody wanted to take, Hemingway. Or if they wanted to take F. Scott Fitzgerald or Gertrude Stein and say, I want to take something from this. And they do. They put the boards, something from an author. So then we analyze that and think, wow, that's pretty cool that... Oh, and then Game of Thrones. Did I tell you about that one?
Game of Thrones. No, what?
Somebody put on the board, I wonder if it was right after I met you a few weeks back. Somebody put, I've never seen Game of Thrones, but I want to. Everybody just raves about it. But on Game of Thrones, there's this woman, I guess, Arya Stark. And she had a quote that said, leave one wolf alive and the sheep are never safe. And I looked at that, and I was like, that is so cool. So I revised it a little for the journey I'm on, and I thought, as long as this wolf can still howl, the 3 perpetrators in my rape are never safe from the truth. And it just, all it took was this person to put that quote. And I've quoted that now. I've told so many people. I'm telling you now about this quote. But I think it's so powerful too, because...
Can you say it again?
Oh yeah, it's from the movie or the show Game of Thrones. It said, leave one wolf alive and the sheep are never safe.
Okay.
And I revised it just to say, as long as this wolf can still howl, the 3 perpetrators in my rape are never safe from the truth. Because I'm going to tell the truth every day, and I have the right to tell their names, not to hurt them, but if amazing things happen with people around me, I would want to say who was around me, what was going on. But in this case, a lot of us as survivors, we're scared to mention certain details, maybe names. But the thing is, it's the truth. And as long as we're telling the truth in any facet of our lives, people that have done bad to us are never safe from the truth. And so anyway,
that's dope. I like that.
I like
they
that
don't
quote.
Control you.
Right.
I like that. That's
and
cool.
I like that somebody put that quote, because like I said, it got me thinking a different way, different angle. So people challenge me every day with what they put on these boards to just challenge me to understand life a little better. It's really cool. I never know what somebody's going to put on these boards.
Yeah.
And I've been stuck at probably 8 or 9 months with 89 languages now. People will still put languages on there, but not a new one. And so I'm always curious, like, when will I get to that 90th language? Because know somebody out there is going to come up to me and say, have you had this yet? Or this version of... I think it's Ethiopia has 80 different languages.
Oh my God.
India has one for every state, so I think it's 27.
Wow.
Nigeria has numerous languages. But it's just really cool, because you'll meet somebody from Ethiopia, and they're not from Addis Ababa. They're from a city that's 400 miles away, and there's a different language. It's not Amharic. It's something else. And then I pretty much all the European languages are taken.
Yeah.
So it's like at some point... But it's just fascinating, because somebody will come up to you and they'll say something you've never heard of before. It could even, maybe not even be a language. It could be a food that they... I was introduced to horchatas.
That's the Mexican.
Yeah. My friend Edwin, who I met on this journey, he's from Michoacan originally.
Oh, wow.
And he introduced me to that. It took me 50 years of my life to be introduced to horchata. Like,
they're delicious.
I love it. Just... Every day, every week, every month, people are opening me up to just so many facets of life. I think it's just amazing. So honestly, I owe so much to so many people. And I think all of us owe much to society. So you just have to be open to it. And so
that's cool.
I've been pretty damn open to letting you guys come into my life, and you guys are helping me change.
Yeah, that's all. Well, I'm going to make a prediction. Within the next year, I'm going to say you're going to get on Colbert. Within the next year.
I hope it's in the next week or two. So But
you never know, man. You never know.
And then
you never know.
I tell people, I leave it up to, you know, again, it goes back to people say, oh, is it the reason you haven't been on is because God just, you haven't met the right person yet. But then again, I keep going back to saying the atheists and agnostics because I want to respect everybody in this journey.
Yeah.
But they'll tell me, no, it's not the higher power. It's just the universe hasn't put everything in place yet for you. At some point, you look and think, well, why is it that God, higher power, or the universe hasn't put it in place yet? I think the one thing people agree on is maybe one of you guys still has to come into my life that hasn't yet. Or maybe I have to come in one of your lives.
Ooh, I love this stuff.
Yeah, it's just, but you wonder, why on the journeys that we go on, does something, like somebody comes in your life and they may change you so much.
Why do things happen the way they do?
Yeah. And so I look at that and I'm like, I'm really like, so hopefully you're right. Hopefully in the next year, everything comes together and I can get on the show. And, but if I'd have got on the show in the first 50 days,
that's too soon.
Yeah.
you wouldn't have worked for it hard enough.
Well, I think the thing is, people are right when they analyze it, that you could start taking away so many things that have happened. I mean, I wouldn't have been in El Paso meeting people. I wouldn't have been in New York or Boston. You could eliminate a lot. There'd be no documentary. No, there would have been no documentary, no TEDx talk. There would have maybe only been 40 or 50 boards instead of 447. But there wouldn't have been so many other people that have become involved with their stories. And now, when this is done, I mean, can you imagine when I go on Colbert someday and I take almost 30,000 messages with me from 30,000 people? I think at some point, there could be a moment where people are like, they want to see these boards. I mean, maybe Colbert or somebody says, let's have an exhibit in New York so that people, when they come, know that they can come and see these. And maybe it's a traveling exhibition. But yeah, if this would have only gone 50 days or 100 days, you could get rid of about 90 to 95% of this journey and the people I met. And then you guys is really what keeps us going. It's the engine. So
that's crazy.
I don't know why things happen the way they do.
Well, I saw too recently on Netflix, I watched, I didn't even know Ellen DeGeneres did stand up, but she has a new special out and it was fucking amazing. But she like talked about, some of her story and, I mean, she had like a rough go, like the beginning of her career. And then when she came out and she was basically like ousted and she, she didn't have, any work or basically any income for like many years. And, she just kept going and kept going. And she's like, I want to do this is what I want to do. I want to do stand up. And like, for some reason, like things fell into place. And I mean, obviously she's like massively, successful now, but it's like for a long time, like she was, having, a lot of troubles in her life and things weren't really going that well. But it's interesting to hear that from people when you look at people and you might think like somebody who's successful or whatever, and you automatically just think, oh, this person, like everything they've done is perfect. And like, that's why they've gotten to this point. Like I could never get there. And it's like, everybody has to like go through the shit basically.
Yeah. And when you said that, it was an article I wrote. Cause I was telling you, I write for a bunch of different, mostly LGBT newspapers around the country, but at the end of one of them the other day, it's going to come out in a couple of weeks for the July edition of these publications. But I said in there, I touched on what you said. I said, I've never met a strong person with an easy past. And so as you talk about Ellen, and I loved it. That's how I was finalizing this article. Because I talked about, you would think only somebody, if they're going to read my article, I was making the theme for July. So I thought, what's July? What can I talk about? And I thought, I'll talk about the 4th of July. But I don't want to go traditional and go, red, white, and blue. Let's all. So I thought, what can I do with the 4th of July theme? I've written for 13 years and I don't want to do the same old thing. So I thought, I'm going to look for something bad that's happened on the 4th of July. Ooh. And so I was researching and I came across in Portland, Maine, back in 1866, somebody threw a firecracker and it went wayward and it caught the city on fire. Half the city burned down. Portland, Maine. Yeah. And we look at Paradise, California, about a year ago, the whole town burned down. Mm-hmm. And people were like, we've never seen anything like this. And as I was doing research for this article for July, I thought, wait a minute. People said we've never seen anything like this. But we have to some degree. 10,000 people were left homeless in Portland, Maine in 1866. Half the city was gone. And I thought, this is what I'm going to write about. And I thought, but I'm supposed to write about themes when I write uplifting, inspiring, motivational. I thought, how do you turn that? I mean, how do I turn the 4th of July and one of our happiest, it's the happiest celebration for summer.
Yeah.
But I took it and said, but it's in these moments of trauma that we can find our greatest triumphs. And that's because we see the spirit, the human spirit. And so that was what I did. I found 4 stories that I researched, and I found 4 stories from that Portland fire, and I talked about them. And they were stories of inspiration. They were stories of human spirit, resilience. And as I went through each one of them, I said, that right there is what we have to look at when we're trying to get through something. And that's how I turned it into something happy and uplifting and powerful. So the hope is when somebody reads this, whatever part of the country they're in, depending on what city I write in, but I want people in each city to be able to look at that and say, you know what? Again, it goes back to that whole thing that I was ending with, is I've never met a strong person with an easy past. Yeah. And I mean, if you look at Portland, Maine, I know people there now that I talk with, and they told me, oh yeah, we all remember, it's been passed down through generations, this fire and how it impacted people to this day. But they talk of it as a source of pride, how we were able to overcome this, how we were able to tell these stories of the great moments. And yeah, those people back then, they did not have something easy that happened to them, but they became stronger. And it sounds so cliche until you've met somebody that's been through a trauma and they've busted their ass to get better, or had a city that busts his ass. I would imagine Paradise, California is going to, they're all going to come together and bust their rear ends, and they're going to be a better, stronger community for it. Yeah. It's sad that they went through that, but yeah, as you were talking about Ellen DeGeneres, that was clicking around in my head. It's like, dang, I just wrote about something like that, but you're on the same wavelength with me that people like Ellen, she went through a lot of hell. Yeah. I mean, could you imagine in the late 90s, you're on top of the world and you come out and tell people, yep, I'm gay. That was the title on, I think, People magazine. Yep, I'm gay.
Showed that. Yeah, they showed that cover, yeah. And not knowing, what the reaction is going to be, how,
And she took a beating. And it's hard. I mean, I about 5 or 6 years after Ellen came out, I came out to my family. Really? And it was hard. I mean... Yeah,
because you mentioned when we were talking before this, like you think it's still hard for people to come out today.
I mean, I look at Mayor Pete Buttigieg from South Bend, Indiana. He's running for president, and he said 4 years ago he came out. I mean, that's 2015.
That's crazy.
And he said he struggled in 2015. And so I mean, it's just we can choose to use these moments that are bad in our lives to define us, or we can say, all right, I'm going to fight. And I mean, a lot of times we need people with us. And I mean, if that sums up what the journey I've been on, is that I'm using you guys to say, I need help. Yeah. I'm not too proud to go up to people and go, you know what, I'm struggling. I need help. What can we do together?
But it does the reverse of that, though. That's the interesting thing. Is like you help other people. You're like helping all the people you're talking to. Like you're enhancing their day. They're having a better day. Like they're interacting with you.
So,
like,
and that's
so it's like it's
because I remember some people initially criticized me and said, "So you just want to get on a TV show? Why should we help you get on a TV show?" Oh, damn. And I thought, as I thought about some of the criticism in the early going with some of the people, not a lot, but I thought, well, these people they're upset about something in their life. Like maybe they're lashing out at me, but I thought, but if that's how you see it, is that I just want to get on a TV show for my adulation or just to benefit myself, then that tells me more about you. Because I wasn't seeing it that way. I was thinking, I found something that was happy with me. I want to get on a show and I want to share this story. Yeah. Like that was it. It was just like, I almost like saying, I want to climb Mount Kilimanjaro. Yeah. Why? Because I had a moment that made me think I can do this, and it kept me. So again, why wouldn't you get behind somebody if it's going to help me? Because anything, if you do something that's going to help you, it's not. If it's not hurting other people, then you're actually helping other people. So I look at it and think, if you can get to one of your goals, whether that's to get a master's degree, a PhD, whether it's if you want to build your own home, whether it's if you want to walk across the country, whatever it is. If there's something that you want to do good for you and it's not hurting other people, why am I not getting behind you? Yeah. So in some cases, I told people, I figured this journey out as it went. I got more answers and more clarity. And I thought I was figuring it out because of everybody I'm meeting. Like they added something. Ooh. The main portion of why I'm doing this has always stayed intact. People, I've met people that said, well, your true intention really isn't to get on the Late Show. Yeah, actually it is. Because it's like if you tell somebody who wants to climb Mount Kilimanjaro, Mount Everest, Mount Fuji, and somebody says, well, that's not really your true goal. Yeah, actually it is.
Yeah.
Like, leave me alone. But the thing is, as you're approaching that goal or you're doing it, you realize other things and other factors come into play, and you learn a lot on the way. Maybe we're all Sherpas. We're all helping somebody like get up that mountain and ascend. And so, yeah, I mean, maybe we all are Sherpas and we're helping other people get to where they need to be and being their guide. But the goal is still to get on the Late Show. It's very symbolic. But as I'm getting to that destination, I didn't think this journey was going to be this. And this is what I learned. Like, look, I'm sitting here with you, Austin. Like,
I know. Yeah.
Like, you're giving me a chance to like share a lot of this with you and people that engage you a lot. And so it's just giving me a chance to tell people like, this has been one hell of a journey and it still keeps going. And I always tell people, if people need something, message me. And if there's something I can do to help people, because I've made it so far up the mountain so far. I always tell people now, I can't see the summit because the clouds are in the way, but that wasn't happening 300 days ago because I wasn't in the clouds. Now I'm in the clouds, which is a good thing because that means I'm pretty high up. Unfortunately, I can't see the summit, and I need all the people every day to keep reassuring me, like, brother, you're in the clouds. Don't give up. You can't see the summit, but let me tell you, you're close. And so I feel that every day that it's getting closer.
Hell yeah.
I just don't know exactly because it is obscured right now.
And then when that happens, then who knows what's going to open up after that? Like, who knows who knows what's going to happen? I mean, who knows where your life can go? And
I think there's an excitement to that because we live our lives. I learned a lot. We're in a structured society. If you turn on any of the major news stations, watch. Almost always, what are they doing? It's about prognostication. They want to know, like, it could be the weather. What's the weather going to be? How bad's this hurricane going to be? How bad's the hurricane season going to be? What's going to happen? Is Trump going to run for re-election? Is Bernie Sanders going to get it? Is it going to be Joe Biden? It's all about prognostication. Why? Because the people are now asking, like in Phoenix, there were all these shootings. Like, is anything going to change? Because we can't live in the moment for the most part. We're always trying to think, somebody tell me the future. And we're never, for the most part, the news, if we watch too much of it, we're never in the present because we're always thinking about the future. And it's like something beautiful. I mean, I'm not saying for the weather, turn off the weather if you live in Miami and it's July and August to say, well, if there's a hurricane today. But what's wrong sometimes with turning off the news and just waking up one day in Phoenix going, is it going to be 115 today or 98? I don't know. Like, is it going to kill you for the most part? No, just be prepared for everything. But we can't. We've learned that we have to always know what's going on or we don't feel comfortable. And if you ask me, in some ways, it's actually making things worse. Because we're not...
You're in fear all the time. Because a lot of the news is just like, it's like tragic or like crazy events or like, when are we going to get nuked or like, what's going on? So it's like all this, like, you're like constantly like, in that fearful state.
Well, look at me when I met you. Like, I've talked about you since I met you. Really? Like I said, this guy's got a podcast, Austin, and we're going to engage with each other coming up soon. But you're the one that actually engaged me first because I was talking to people when we met at the coffee shop out there, and you pulled me over, and then I started engaging with you. And then as we started talking, I mean, you weren't on my radar screen. I probably wasn't on yours to meet that day. And so there's something incredibly awesome about just meeting somebody and going, wow, we just had this interaction. I would encourage more people to do that. Just let your life just, in Spanish, tranquilo, just relax.
And I feel like too, like what I've been trying to do in my life too is like, just like I guess more like try to live in the moment, like not have so many expectations and just allow myself to like, whatever is going to unfold. But also, because I feel like a lot of people are so caught up in whatever it is that they're doing in their little world. It's like they let everything pass them by, It's like we got to still like have, interactions in real life and like have experiences in real. We can't experience everything through Netflix and like YouTube and... So,
because otherwise you're living somebody else's life. And I think it's beautiful to be able to watch that, to have that escapist entertainment. and recharge. But yeah, and you can't be bubble wrapped. Every day I go out, I mean, here's another phrase in Spanish. I mean, I'm going to experience la mala y la buena. Like, you're going to have the bad, the good. You're always going to have something. But the thing is, I would rather go through, people are like, you want to go through something bad? No. But I mean, if I go through something bad, it means I was actually out putting myself out there.
Yeah,
and so when I'm going to experience bad, you're obviously going to experience some good too, because it's not always going to be you're going to have high tide and low tide. So you're going to experience the both. And I think there's such a beauty in that, to just say, don't be bubble wrap, go out, fall down, get knocked around, have people reject you, have people tell you no. But you're going to have a lot of people tell you yes in a day. Like, and in my case, there are a hell of a lot more people saying, yes, I want to hear what you have to say and engage with you than no. And they've helped me create, I mean, these boards now are 3,700 square feet of art.
Yeah, that would be so awesome to have all, assembled in somewhere.
Yep.
Can we show one of these on camera before we wrap it up here, just so people can kind of see what we're talking about?
Yeah.
So.
I wonder if have any. Sometimes people put artwork on them.
Yeah, I'm amazed too at how much people write, and it's not just like one or two of them. Like, the majority of people write, a pretty decent amount. I mean, it's so crazy.
Those used to be a lot smaller. Like this message here, it used to be more along that line or like that and that in the first couple of months. But I think it's because it's like the chicken and egg. I don't know if people opened me up more or I opened them up, or it was back and forth. But so I mean, the messages predominantly are like that now. And then this board doesn't have any artwork on it per se, but people put art, they put poetry. Yeah. And then on this board, oh yeah, there's Russian right there. That's this Cyrillic alphabet. And then on the side, one of the sides over there in purple, there's Korean, and then I think this is Spanish. So this board had maybe 4 languages on it as I'm looking.
That's crazy.
But that guy just recently signed. He said it's a poem. I have to still figure out that from Google Translate.
Really?
Yeah, he put the name of the author.
Which one?
That one.
Oh, okay.
It's a poem, and he's from the Ukraine.
Wow.
He met me in downtown recently, and he said, I'm going to put it in Russian. I've got a few dozen, 2 to 3 dozen Russian signers, so.
That's so amazing. Very cool.
So this is what keeps me busy.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much for coming on and talking with me, and it's been really, it was a pleasure meeting you that day, and hopefully you'll come on after Colbert, man.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah, I can tell you about the fun experience was trying to get on a TV show for 5 minutes, spending 11,000 hours getting on a show for 5 minutes. Was it worth it? And I'm pretty damn sure the answer is going to be yes. Because I would tell somebody, like, what's your life worth? Like, if I would have taken my life that night, don't you think my family and my friends would have said we would have done anything for 11,000 hours to get him back, even if it was for 5 minutes? Like, and if you look at the movie Ghost from years ago with Patrick Swayze, Demi Moore, and Whoopi Goldberg, the whole premise of that was, for that 5 minutes, they had time together. And at the end, before he became an angel or whatever, but they had that 5-minute moment, and it was so powerful. But I just tie that in because I think, what would somebody do? I've spent 11,000 hours for 5 minutes, but what would you do to have one of your best friends or one of your relatives that died back, so you could for 5 minutes have them? And that's really what I'm doing, is I'm going to have this moment with so many millions of people to share, like 5 minutes. It's not just my 5 minutes. It's about to us, nosotros. It's about us saying, this is our 5 minutes. So.
Wow, man.
So yeah, there probably will be a lot to share being on that show, and I don't know. I've never been on the Late Show with Stephen Colbert, so I have no idea. I'll do reconnaissance and come back and share with you and other people what it was like. So,
that's beautiful, man. That's awesome. It's gonna happen for sure. For sure.
I am hopeful.
All right, Blake Late Show, everybody. Hell yeah. Peace.
Thanks, you guys.